Welcome to today's Explainer, everyone. We're jumping right into what I'd honestly call a masterclass on one of the most incredible stories in human history. We are looking at how sheer human creativity and determination physically built the United States. We're going to explore how early Americans transformed raw, untamed geography into a connected nation, basically using technology to solve some absolutely massive problems.
So how do you actually build a nation from scratch? I mean, it's a huge question, right? Just imagine standing in the middle of a vast wilderness. You've got these towering mountain ranges blocking your path, massive deep rivers, and seemingly endless deserts. How did early Americans not just survive in those harsh wild landscapes, but actually manage to thrive and build the connected society we know today? Okay, let's dive into this. The source material for our explainer today anchors this whole concept of building and restoring with a really powerful piece of scripture. Isaiah 61:4 talks about rebuilding ancient ruins and restoring devastated places. It speaks right to the heart of taking a challenging environment and making it life-giving. The big takeaway here is that humans possess this unique creativity to work alongside nature, modifying it to make life significantly better for their communities. Section 1. Humans working with nature. This is where we see exactly how positive environmental modifications come into play. Faced with a giant mountain or a raging river, you don't just give up, right? You use technology. And the four primary tools for this were roads, canals, irrigation systems, and bridges. Now, these aren't just piles of dirt and stone. They were literally the lifeblood of an expanding nation. Building this infrastructure meant Americans could suddenly travel farther, grow way more food, and connect isolated local markets into a booming national economy. But, and this is key, doing this right requires careful planning. We have to meet human needs while also protecting the environment.
Section 2. Waterways, focusing on the Erie Canal.
To see how specific engineering marvels solve the brutal problems of vast distances and impossibly slow trade, we have to look at the year 1825. That year was an absolute game-changer. In 1825, the Erie Canal was finally completed. It was this massive trench dug right through New York, physically connecting the Great Lakes all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. Almost overnight, that single piece of infrastructure turned New York City into one of the most powerful trade hubs in the entire world.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark before and after contrast. Before the canal, if you were a farmer, you were pretty isolated. Shipping your goods over land was painfully slow and insanely expensive. But after, suddenly those same farmers could load their products onto barges and send them to major markets quickly and, most importantly, affordably. This dramatically lowered shipping costs, sparked a booming trade economy, and directly paved the way for rapid settlement out west.
Section 3. Railways, connecting the continent.
Moving from water to land, let's look at how the Transcontinental Railroad stretched possibilities across thousands of miles. Walking through this timeline really shows the chronological momentum of the nation's growth. It starts in 1825 with the Erie Canal unlocking the waterways. Then, moving into the mid-1800s, railroads begin expanding nationwide, reaching all those places water never could. And because of that massive expansion, by the late 1800s, we see the rapid, explosive settlement of the western frontier. It's basically a domino effect driven purely by infrastructure.
Think about it like this. Imagine ordering a package today, but having to wait months for it to arrive, knowing there was a really good chance it might get destroyed on some dangerous wagon trail along the way. You probably wouldn't order much, would you? Well, that was travel before railroads. But travel after? A total revolution. We're talking safe, reliable, nationwide movement that slashed travel time from several grueling months down to just a matter of days. It literally shrank the continent.
Section 4. Irrigation, watering the West.
Shifting gears from transportation to agricultural technology, the concept of greening the desert perfectly captures what happened next. Our source specifically points to California's Central Valley. Naturally, a lot of this land was incredibly dry, basically unusable for large-scale farming. But by building massive networks of irrigation canals, humans acted as the ultimate problem solvers. They brought water to the land and transformed those dry areas into some of the most insanely productive farmland on the planet.
So the source material poses a central question here. What problem does irrigation actually solve for farmers? Take a second to think about that.
The core solution is that it completely eliminates total dependence on rainfall. Before irrigation, if it didn't rain, your crops died, your business failed, and people went hungry. By completely bypassing the unpredictable nature of the weather, irrigation allowed for a massive, reliable expansion in food production, which, of course, was absolutely crucial to feed a rapidly growing nation.
Section 5. Knowledge Check. Let's review a few core takeaways from the homework.
So the crucial point is seeing how all these forms of infrastructure worked together to build the nation. Remember, the main benefit of the Erie Canal was dramatically lowering shipping costs. The big impact of the Transcontinental Railroad was changing migration patterns by finally settling the western frontier. And roads and bridges, they served as those critical links connecting markets and driving economic growth.
Section 6. Education and Biblical Morality.
Here, the curriculum makes this really seamless transition from the historical infrastructure of the nation to your own personal infrastructure as a student. The philosophy is that just as a nation needs physical infrastructure, like those roads and bridges we just talked about, a person needs moral infrastructure. The source argues that academic intelligence has to be paired with a strong, spiritual, biblical foundation, because otherwise, being smart without morality can easily lead to choices that cause harm to yourself and others.
And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast between those two paths. Seriously, what is the point of knowing all the facts and acing your tests if it just leads to bad life choices that bring pain? In this framework, education without morality is kind of like a powerful train with no tracks. It is bound to crash. But education with morality? That's viewed as intelligence safely guided by a spiritual foundation, straight toward a prosperous good life.
This brings us directly to the ultimate promise the source draws from Romans 8, 6-7. It notes that a spiritual mind brings true peace and life. And that's exactly the foundational goal intended for every student engaging with this curriculum. It's about building a mind that isn't just packed with historical facts and critical thinking skills, but one that is firmly grounded in a positive, spiritual framework that brings real peace of mind.
Which leaves us with this final, provocative thought presented by the source. We've seen exactly how early Americans built the physical foundations of a superpower. But looking at our own lives, what kind of foundation are you building for your own future? Are we all just out here gathering facts, or are we actively building the moral infrastructure required to truly thrive? Definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer, and we will see you next time.